I think we should turn our attention now that we've kind of like, done a little bit of tiki riffing in not in a vacuum, but sort of like, some high level tiki thought work here. Let's turn our attention to the Kazan Room. Now, when I first looked at this name, I was like, oh, it's named after a city in like Russia, upward inflection question mark.
Yeah.
So, but that was clearly wrong on my part. So tell us about how you named it, how you kind of built it from the ground up. And I guess, Brandon, you referenced that you think that there are some, essential components to what a tiki bar is. So like maybe you can kind of seed those elements in as you describe, the Kazan Room and how it grew to be what it is today.
Yeah. Well, for the listeners out there, Kazan is the romanization and pronunciation of volcano in Japanese. So Kazan is volcano or fire mountain, as it would be read in kanji or even in Chinese context. Mm-hmm. So it's not a Russian spin on tiki, or even Eastern European language. My sister-in-law is Romanian, and she said this word means something different in Romanian as well. And so, not to say there's anything wrong with that. It's just we live in Japan, and this is a word for volcano in Japanese. So it is translated as the volcano room. And yeah,
why volcano?
Yeah, why volcano? Islands. That's how islands in the Rim of Fire are made. The Polynesia is volcanoes. So it's, to me, that's pretty simple, straightforward. Hale Pele is the a volcano god, just to reference that bar again. But, and the volcano room would have been a little too on the nose. And, we're here in Japan, and, Japanese culture samples English quite a bit in terms of its pop culture. And so we thought we'd kind of do the reverse and kind of sample its language, be it that we're living here and
this mix both together.
Yeah. And so we used to go under the name of Tiki Oishi as well. So we definitely really love playing with Japanese and tiki at the same time. And so the Kazan Room really made sense for us. But yeah, that's the name and its background. As far as the bar goes, I think when we were shaping the bar and building out the bar and kind of creating the bar program as a whole, going back to what we were talking about earlier, we definitely wanted a space that was going to be seating only, definitely more of a cocktail bar first, then a tiki bar. I would say our vibe here is probably more of a either modern take on tiki or pre-tiki, before tiki's actually made their way into what we know now as tiki culture. So the first tiki, I think, was used at the luau in the 1950s, and it was used on the menu. But prior to that, tikis were never really part of the tropical cocktail culture that Don the Beachcomber and Trader Vic's spearheaded. It wasn't until Steve Crane used the tiki on the menu for the luau that it actually became part of the imagery and aesthetic of tiki culture as we know it. And so we don't really use a lot of the tiki imagery either. However, our menu is very much based on historic and classic tiki cocktails and some originals that are rum based with Japanese, cocktail and spirit fusion. But going back just again to the design and some of the aesthetic of our bar, it was definitely more of a lounge concept or memberships club. I think we definitely used classic Japanese whiskey bars and cocktail bars as an influence just because we are here. That's what's common. And so originally the riff was, why don't we take a classic Japanese whiskey bar with all of its class and put our tiki perspective on it and, build something that could, fuse the in-between of a Tikiphile and a Japanese, cocktail enthusiast. And so I feel like the Kazan Room kind of hit that on the head. So that's what we're feeling. Yeah.